Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Maverick here, bringing to you episode 12 of Vinland Saga. So last episode, after some back and forth and fighting and whatnot, at the end of the day, the winner turned out to be Askeladd. He now has full control of Prince Canute and all the various rewards and glory and whatnot that will eventually come of it, right? Now, if we were going by more historical standards and whatnot, they should actually all be heading back to, or they should all be at London right now, where the city of London will eventually surrender to King Sweyn Forksbeard, kicking out both King Alfred and Forkel. But since this is not exactly following a historical pattern here, don't really know what they're going to do, let's just go into the episode and find out. And hopefully we'll also get a voice review for Canute as well. Alright, I just skipped the opening here, so let's just begin in 3, 2, 1, play. The land on the far bank, of the famous river? Oh. Elders? Son of Lydia. Huh. So he actually has a network of people here? Former Romans? Britons? It looks like he's blind. Okay. So, an enhanced sense of hearing. Reinforcements? Really? So I guess in this episode we're gonna get a bit more of Subversion. We're gonna get some more in regards to the backstory of Ashland. Interesting. The Welsh, maybe? I'm honestly drawing blank in regards to this. I don't really know of any third parties that Ashlad would actually have connections with. Oh? Hmm. Let him finish his sentence. But shouldn't it be the same for both sides, though? Well, I guess former Yoms Vikings should be a little bit more well-trained than a ragtag bunch of mercenaries. Oh. What? Huh. I am intrigued. What the hell? Romans? What? ？And I.
そもそもイングランドじゃねえんだって。
Okay, okay, the Welsh.
ウェールズ、イングランドの西に位置する山岳地帯である。険しい山々に資源は閉じ、
I mean, I did know that they weren't. See, that was why my only thought was the Welsh.
全地域を統一するほどの国家が育つことはなく、多数の小王国が割拠する状態が数百年続いていた。アシェラッドの救援要請に応じたのは、そんな小王国の一つだった。
Huh. Okay.
おめて使わすぞアシェラッド。今頃トルケルは川の向こうではがみしておるだろうて。あとはこのまま回路を行けばゲインズバラへ帰れるというわけだ。いえ、ここからはまた陸路です。何を言うトルキ様。そこに船があるの。外国の物差しで考えちゃいけませんよ。この国にとって風船三隻や貴重な戦力なんだ。トルケルを巻くのに協力してくれただけでもよしとしなけりゃ。なら2隻でよい。詰めれば100人くらい。ダメです。わがまま有効は置いていきますよ。ウェールズの地を歩けというのか。バカな。こっちの民は。
But why would they answer Ashlat's call though? Huh.
え、殿下。今大事な話。
Look at his eyelashes.
トルケルに追われながらイングランドを北上するよりはマシですよ。少なくともこの国は私の味方です。それでも心配だとおっしゃるなら、トルフィー、このものをクヌート殿下にお付けします。おお、そなたあの時の。勝手に決めんじゃねえよ。ありは小さいが腕は立ちます。殿下とは年も同じなので気が合うでしょう。
What is the what is the relevance of that priest, anyways?
見返りはあるんだろうな。わかったわかった。ゲインズバラに着いたら相手してやる。アシェラッド、準備は良いか。はい、ただいま。やれ、忙しいな。こちらはモルガンクーグ王国の将軍、グラティアヌス。
Gratianus. The Roman name. He just looked. Everything about him screamed Roman.
それは私の部下です。クヌート王子殿下はそちらにおわします。絵に力がない。本当に時代のイングランドを捨てるものか。貴様、失礼であろう。我らがデンの王子の逃避行に協力する理由は一つ。ウェールズへの不可侵条約の締結だ。すべては気候次第。王子よ、誓われよ。イングランドの王となった暁には、決してウェールズには干渉せん。
I don't. I'm not that familiar with the.
殿下は拷問しておられる。そなたらが船3隻を提供するならば、私は王子本人に聞いているのだ。
What kind of stupid standoff is this?
まあよい。また後で聞く。これまでに文書を用意しておる。出発の準備を急がれよ。なんじゃあの高慢ちは。こちらの足元を見よってからに殿下と対等に口が聞けるとでも思うとるんか。田舎者めが。
I'm not that familiar with the history of Welsh, to be honest. So, I'll probably have to look this up a little bit later in regards to, Canute's relation to the Welsh after he becomes king.
トルケルから王子を救ったんだぜ。農場の一つももらいたいもんだ。かっちょいい剣とか。いや、やっぱり黄金よ。金に勝るものはないぜ。ちげえね。なんでも王の寝室には世界中からさらってきた美女の奴隷が100人もいるってよ。ワクワクすんな。もう他にはおい神父さんよ。あんた王宮にいたんだよな。王の家にはどんなものがあったね。いやまあこれといって価値のありそうなものはなかったです。嘘。美女も。私の求めているものに比べれば金銀も美女もつまらないものだと言える。
Beer.
ぜひ教えてくれ。一体それは何なんだ。
Salvation.
愛です。愛。なんだそれ。聞いたことねえな。俺知ってる。キリスト教徒が
Okay.
かなんかだよ。もんじゃねえの。銀で言うと何ポンドのものだ。銀では測れません。銀に価値を与えるのは愛だからです。愛なくしては金も銀も美女もすべて無価値だ。価値を与える。ほんとわけわかんねえな。金も銀の価値だろうがよ。小難しいこと言いやがって。
Mm.
王さん、おい。続けてくれよ、今の話。もう少し。
Is he slowly going to convert them into Christianity?
ブリケイニオン王国に入る。案ずるな。話はつけてやる。ご尽力、痛み入ります。お前たちのためではない。利害の一致だ。ウェールズ諸王国はかねてよりイングランドの侵攻に苦しめられてきた。お前たちデンジンが黙らせてくれるならば我々に都合がいい。王子殿下はきっと多様に約束されましょう。
But why does Ashlet have connections with the Welsh? So did he come from here?
血筋は申し分ありません。あとはまあ若さに期待しています。惚れた男ほど思い通りにはならんもんです。案外あのくらいの器の方がちょうどいいのかもしれません。我らは誇りあるブリタニアの末裔だ。
Right, I get that.
グラティアヌス殿、未だ伝説を信じておいでですか。アルトリウス公が西の彼方のアバロンから戻られ、古のブリタニアを復興なさるという伝説を。
Oh, they caught up?
耳のやつはそう言ってるぜ。ブリケイ
Ambush?
部下に耳の良いものを送ります。だが、もう遅い。どうしたトロフィー？
Yeah, ambush. Hmm. And who are you? That's the, I forgot his name, and... Oh, shit. Oh, that's an epic scene. Ah, this was an interesting episode for sure. Alright, alright. I actually have to look up some stuff, but I'll see you guys after the ending. Alrighty, so that was quite the intriguing episode, right? If you boil it down, nothing really happened, but it still managed to keep me captive throughout. And of course, you guys should know by now that I like all the historical references from this historical work. In this case, however, I will fully admit that I am not that well versed in Welsh history, and to be honest, there isn't really that much to look at anyways, right? Because similar to the Norse and whatnot, relatively few texts survive from that time period, so our knowledge is fairly limited. Now, the only reason why I was able to guess Welsh within the reaction itself was because, you know, from a geographical and a historical context standpoint, that was the only remaining place that made sense in order to get some sort of reinforcement, right? Or some rogue, I guess some rogue nobles from the countryside could also be a possibility, but that would be, again, fairly going against what historical records say, right? Now, the reason why I wasn't so confident in guessing the Welsh came from a few things. Number one, like I mentioned, there's not really that much text there. Personally, I've never even read much about the Welsh, to be honest. And second of all, I guess it never dawned on me to make the connection between Ashglad and his Roman influence and even his King Arthurian influence with that of the Welsh. And which is probably the reason why they chose to bring the Welsh into the story at this point in the first place, right? So we know Ashglad and his archetype or whatever. It's sort of based on a Roman commander who in turn is sort of a basis for the legend of King Arthur, right? At least according to some research and some sources. It's not 100% verified, but that is how it is, right? And the thing about King Arthur is a lot of the myth and legend of King Arthur really stems from one work called the Historia Regum Britanniae, Historia Regum Britanniae, right? Written by Geoffrey of Monmouth, which itself is sort of a consolidation of lots of different historical texts of his contemporaries, or any sort of historical text that he was able to get his hands on from years prior. I believe the Historia Regum Britanniae was written sometime again in the 13th century, whereas the text that he used stem from all the way back to perhaps shortly after the fall of the Roman Empire, right? So maybe, I don't know, 5th century or something like that. But again, even with using these sort of historical texts, a lot of it actually comes from what we again call oral tradition, right? Some Welsh legends, some Welsh folklore, if you will, and consolidating them together, and perhaps adding some of his own flair as well, and molding it into the legend of King Arthur as we know right now, right? So we can definitely say that a lot of our understanding of King Arthur comes from this sort of Welsh influence. So it would make sense that these two would be combined here with Askeladd and the Welsh, right? And of course, they even mentioned this themselves by referring back again to the the resurrection of King Arthur, right? Leading his men out from Avalon to again drive out the outside invaders, at least according to myth, anyways. So it was referenced here as well. Really, there's not, even though I say I look at this from a historical perspective, there's not really that much to talk about because, again, it's just too much speculation, right? You can't really say if this is right or wrong or whatnot. Personally, again, this, as I was mentioning from last episode, this entire foray into, saving King Canute and then fighting against Forcow and now meeting the Welsh, this is already well outside the realm of recorded history. So we've got that entire, that's just nothing, right? Now, in terms of how the Welsh are actually portrayed here, again, hard to say. They clearly, in this anime here, try to show a huge Roman influence here, right? And, I mean, that there is a basis for that. Because they were, of course, just as the commander himself mentioned, they are descendants of Britannia, of the Romans, right? So, of course, they would have this influence there. Would that survive all the way into current day, into the 10th, into the 11th century? I'm not so sure about that. I would feel that their styles and customs and whatnot would probably be much more similar to that of neighboring England instead of still maintaining something from 500 years ago, right? But hey, more power to them. So yeah, I like this little reference here, and I can see the connection between all these different things. But at the end of the day, it's just, historical fiction, right? It's just something fun to put in here. Don't look into it too much, right? And we hear Canute speaking here, and we get a little bit showing of his personality, which to me is still like quite mysterious and somewhat out of it in a certain way. And of course, him being paired with Thorfinn, I don't know. I feel like this is probably going to be a situation where they are going to sort of influence each other, right? Canute will probably learn some of the savageness, I guess you could say, of Thorfinn, and the acceptance of using violence, whereas Thorfinn might mellow out a little bit by being close to Canute, right? So, like I said before, Canute, historically, King Canute, is not exactly this goody-two-shoes kind of king, right? He is he is a king, and he does what kings need to do. He needs to fight wars, he needs to kill people, he needs to kill prisoners, yada yada yada. He's not like this sort of innocent young boy as we see right here, right? So I do believe that what they're trying to do here is they're trying to let them play off each other and gradually grow into their own respective historical selves. More so Canute than Thorfinn, because Thorfinn, not really sure about his actual historical relevance, if we put it that way. And some other cameos within this episode as well, such as we see Leif at the very end there. I suddenly blanked there and I forgot what his name was. And I believe the guy sitting on the throne is probably Kingswain Forkbeard again. I was just a little bit confused as to why he was sitting on a throne. He should be out on the field. That looked like a structure there, so that confused me for a little bit. And it seems that, okay, back to Leaf a second, I feel like he's, I don't know, is that scene actually showing that Thorfinn's hometown has currently been conquered and they're being sold off as slaves. Is it something like that? Or I'm not really sure. But considering Thorfinn's sort of dream, if you will, from the last episode, I kind of feel like that's maybe a foreshadowing of stuff that's happening to his hometown right now. So I wouldn't put it beside it to be the thing that actually happened. And one final thing that I like to mention is in regards to the priest, right? So again, this is sort of a mysterious character, not really sure why he's here. But looking at this, it seems that he's a character to stay, and seeing him actually, give his teachings, the teachings of loving one another and whatnot, and some people actually willing to listen to him. I'm actually wondering if he is going to be sort of a reference to the eventual bishops or archbishops that are under Canute's, that are within Canute's court, right? Because again, Canute, as he is already portrayed here, is a devout Christian. That's the same as the historical Canute as well. He definitely sent a lot of people. I mean, the historical Canute sent people sent bishops and archbishops to meet the Pope and whatnot, and even he himself traveled to the Vatican to, I believe, attend the. I'm not really sure. Is it because there was a new pope or something, attending a coronation ceremony or some sort? I can't quite remember, but he did actually do this sort of, I guess, pilgrimage, if you want to say, within his rule as well. So he is truly a devout Christian there, and perhaps this priest is going to be one of the high archbishops or bishops within his court in the future. And that pretty much concludes everything I want to talk about for this episode, right? The next episode, it seems that we are going to be in the midst of an ambush. I do like Thorfinn's sort of, his expression at the very end there. There's that smug face. Even though it's led him to many a hardship, especially when he's trying to butt heads with Askeladd. At that point there, you have to feel like, okay, he kind of looks like a badass there, right? Looking at all these arrows pointing at him. I actually wonder if he's, I wonder if he has a certain sort of PTSD from seeing archers in elevated positions, right? With his father and all that. Not really sure, but his look at the very end there definitely doesn't seem like one where he is going to cower in fear or anything. He looks like someone who's about to get some business done. So, looking forward to next episode. Let me know if I missed anything in regards to this period of history and whatnot. Like I said, I'm not... Honestly, my knowledge of Welsh history is pretty much zero. I just know the very basics, such as when they were under Roman rule, when they eventually got under English rule and whatnot, and so on and so forth, and that's pretty much it, right? So if there's any of you who actually do have something to add on to that, be my guest. If not, I'll see you guys next week as well. Bye-bye.